Good evening, everyone, on this snowy January day. Welcome to the Municipal Planning Commission meeting for February the 1st, 2023. It is 4:58 by my clock. I will call the meeting to order. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? Member Nowichin?
I'll move to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And then with respect to our minutes from the previous meeting held on January the 18th, 2023. Any anomalies there that we need to go through? Member Gullickson?
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Seeing none, I'll move the minutes as presented.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? All those in favor? Very good, that's unanimous as well. And this evening we do have a development permit application for the transitional housing and offices at 5346 50th Avenue. I'd ask that Development Officer Kirk, can you take us through that item, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Creasy. So the applicant has applied for a development permit for transitional housing and offices to be located at 5346 50th Avenue. The property is zoned R1 Residential Detached District, which provides an area with detached dwellings and compatible uses. Under the R1 District Use Table, a specific site exception has been approved by Council to consider the proposed application as a discretionary use. Administration supports the application with the conditions recommended. So you're here tonight to decide on a discretionary land use with transitional housing up to 10 accommodation offices and units, and 5 offices within an existing building. So pursuant to the land use bylaw, there's 21 property owners within 60 meters of the subject site notified. At the time of writing the report, we got 1 response with various permit condition requests and 2 responses in support. Full comments can be seen on pages 15 to 20 of the report, but we'll go through a summary here. So the first permit condition request is to amend the noise bylaw so that quiet time begins at 7 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. for this property. Administration's response is that amending the community standards bylaw requires a public consultation and any changes would apply to all properties within the city. Recommended condition number 1 of the development permit does require the applicant to comply with all city bylaws, including the community standards bylaw. And they do propose a curfew for their guests and 24-hour staff to ensure compliance with bylaws. So the recommended development permit condition number 1 reads as, this permit indicates that only the development to which it relates is authorized, with the provisions of the land use bylaw and in no way relieves or excuses the applicant from complying with the land use bylaw or any other bylaws, orders, or regulations affecting such development, including but not limited to the community standards bylaw. Another permit condition request was to pave the parking lot to keep down on the dust. So if the lane is hard surfaced, the land use bylaw does require the parking area to also be hard surfaced. The lane consists of both hard surfacing and gravel, and the area of lane directly behind the subject property is gravel. Recommended condition number 7 of the development permit is to hard surface the parking area. Another permit condition request is that vehicle access will be from 50th Avenue only, no back alley vehicle access. Administration's response is that the land use bylaw does not allow for driveways and access points onto arterial roads unless an alternative route is not available. Another permit condition request is to erect a 6-foot continuous wooden fence along the north property line. Administration's response is that a continuous fence along the north property line would prevent access to the lane and limit the city's waste management vehicles from accessing the waste receptacle on site. And the site currently does contain 2 fences along the east and west side of the property, which the applicant proposes to upgrade in the future. Another request was that pedestrian traffic will be from 50th Avenue only, and there would be no man gates to the back alley. Administration's response is that although the site is accessible from the public lane, the main pedestrian route is the sidewalk at the front of 50th Avenue. Another permit condition request is parking will be along the north boundary of the property. So the applicant does propose to use the existing parking lot at the north of the property. Another request is the play area will be restricted to the east side of the property, abutting the north face of the existing building, north to the north limit of the existing wood fence on the east property line. So administration's response is that the east side yard does not contain enough space for a play area, and therefore the applicant proposes a small play area along the west side of the property. Another request was not to extend the building footprint any further north. So administration's response is the applicant does not propose any major building additions. However, they are proposing a ground level wooden patio at the rear of their building as part of their required amenity area. And any person has a right to apply for a permit, so denying that would be a contravention to Section 642(1) of the Municipal Government Act. Another request was not to install any additional windows or accesses along the north face of the building. The applicant does not propose any additional accesses. However, additional windows will be required as per the National Building Code. And the last request is to have any and all outside lighting to have a maximum temperature of 3,500 K. So maximum color temperature regulation will require amendments to the light pollution section of the community standards bylaw. And a recommended condition number 9 of the development permit does require the applicant to comply with the lighting standards of the land use bylaw. So that recommended condition number 9 reads as, the applicant shall ensure that any outdoor lighting be located and arranged so that no direct rays of light are directed at any adjoining properties. The brightness of the lighting shall be appropriate for a residential setting and not adversely affect adjacent sites. So now we're on to the general requests. So consider the proposal as if it were a 10-room motel and how that would impact a quiet residential neighborhood. And also consider that food will be outsourced and it will increase traffic in the area. So administration's response is that we've considered certain aspects of the application as a multi-unit development and deem it to be a compatible use, and conditions have been proposed to minimize the impact to the neighborhood. Another general request was that they prefer to have increased disturbances not happen in such close proximity to their property without strict restrictions in effect. So the Municipal Planning Commission has the authority to impose permit conditions to alleviate concerns from the neighborhood, and the conditions must be within MPC's jurisdiction and achieve planning objectives. And then we received 2 letters of support. One didn't have any additional comments, and one said that they had no issues and feel the proposed use is worthy of support, but prefer that on-street parking be for short-term visitors only, and that residents and staff park in the rear lot. And the applicant is required to have all parking located on-site in the back parking lot. In addition to the consultation for the development permit, consultations also took place for the land use bylaw amendment. So that was bylaw 400.41 for the site-specific exemption and to get a definition for transitional housing. Out of this, the same 21 property owners were notified. Administration received 1 submission on behalf of 2 adjacent landowners in opposition and 1 submission in support. And in addition to those, the applicant has also advised the city that they conducted their own open house or consultation process. They went around and knocked door to door to all of the properties within a 60-meter radius and brought in an invitation to their open house, a Q&A sheet, and a package of information, and baked goods from their downtown storefront. 4 property owners attended their events. So the applicant proposes to renovate the existing building for 2 main uses. One is for 5 offices for the staff, and the next is up to 10 accommodation units to support women experiencing difficult life events, which have led them to face housing challenges. So these life events might include the loss of a partner, a medical condition, the loss of a job, a mental health challenge, divorce, and more. However, this does not include women facing visible addictions or women who may have their lives in danger due to domestic abuse. Such applicants would be referred to a specialized facility, such as a women's shelter or a rehabilitation facility. The proposed use would occupy a vacant building that has limited options for reuse while offering community housing support. The site contains 1 main building that is approximately 10,000 square feet in floor area, as well as an existing rear parking lot. The existing building is proposed to have a communal kitchen, washrooms, and laundry. It is anticipated that guests will stay for a duration of a few days up to 1 year, depending on the situation. And the applicant proposes to offer wraparound support that all guests will be expected to participate in to facilitate growth and healing as they work toward their ultimate goals of securing long-term housing. The applicant proposes to aesthetically enhance the existing building so that it looks more like a residential home that fits into the neighborhood. They propose to add flower beds and additional landscaping to the front yard and remove the existing freestanding sign located in the front yard. There will be no signage on the building or the site. For security purposes, the applicant proposes to have 24-hour staff, a curfew for guests, camera surveillance, a key fob system that tracks movement within the building, a sign-in and sign-out sheet, glass windows and staff offices looking out into the main lobby, a buzzer to enter the main doors, so guests must be let in by staff, and a swipe card to enter the building instead of a key. The land use bylaw, the existing building was previously used as an outreach school, and prior to that, the building was used for a place of worship. A prior land use bylaw allowed for place of worship within the R1 district. However, that bylaw has since changed, leaving behind this R1 zone property with limited uses under the district. The site complies with the current land use bylaw's parking, landscaping, and parcel development requirements. Table 8.2 of the land use bylaw outlines how many parking stalls are required per land use. Transitional housing isn't a listed use, therefore the land use bylaw directs you to use a similar use, which administration deemed to be multiple housing development. So under multiple housing development, you need 1 space per bedroom or suite, and you need 1 space per every 5 units for guests. They're proposing up to 10 accommodation units, and therefore they need 12 total under this use. They're also proposing offices, and therefore parking calculations were taking in consideration of that. They're proposing 51 meters squared, and therefore they require 3 spaces. In total, they need 15 on site, which they are proposing. The amenity area. So although the land use bylaw doesn't require an amenity area for this proposed use, administration again considered it to be similar to a multi-unit development, which requires 1. A public amenity space can be indoors, outdoors, or a combination of both, and may constitute a communal lounge, multi-purpose space, or an outdoor play area. The applicant is proposing to provide an indoor communal area, an outdoor play area on the west side of the property. So this will be mainly for children and would consist of a small slide, sandboxes, etc. They're also proposing outdoor gardening boxes and outdoor multi-purpose space of that ground level deck that you can see there in the pink. So that will be the multi-purpose space for all residents staying there, and they are possibly going to build a pergola in the future. So the land use bylaw requires on-site lighting to be located, oriented, and baffled so as not to create unnecessary glare or light trespass onto adjacent properties. For security and safety purposes, the building contains a small exterior light positioned above the rear doors, as well as a pole-mounted light overlooking the rear parking lot. So the applicant is proposing to upgrade the small light above the rear door. They're unsure if they're going to use the light mounted on the pole. However, if they do, they will make sure that they comply with the regulations of the bylaw. So administration did receive comments about traffic in the lane. So in 2021, a high-level traffic review of the area was conducted. In consultation with the city's engineering department, the information is still relevant today as there's been no development along the street, and therefore any changes in the traffic pattern would be minimal. The review indicated that there is parking available for 75 to 85 vehicles off the back lane, though not all may be currently in use. Traffic counts taken over 3 days indicated that the location sampled on the west side, 113 to 142 trips per day occurred. Assuming traffic is equal at both ends of the lane, the total count was approximately 230 to 280 vehicles per day. Based on parking spaces, 85 vehicles leaving and returning generated 170 trips. This indicates that either vehicles are making multiple trips or there are 30 to 55 vehicles per day utilizing the lane for drive-through traffic. Bylaw enforcement also monitored the traffic for a brief amount over a 4-day period. They observed that most of the traffic appeared to be residents coming and going from their properties. 2 incidences of a driver using the lane to reach Rexall drugs were observed. Based on this limited data from the traffic counts and bylaw enforcement observations, it appears that the vast majority of traffic using the lane today are local residents. So the applicant estimates that on average, there would be about 4 to 8 staff on site, mainly 4, 2 to 4 guests on site that may have a vehicle, no extra traffic from deliveries, and very few guest visitors. So they're still deciding if they're going to allow guest visitors. If they do, it will be limited. Access. Administration received a comment that access should be from 50th Ave only and no back alley access. So the installation of an access and a driveway extending along the length of the west of the building was reviewed and discussed. There's approximately 6 meters clearance between the building and west property line. Theoretically, a single vehicle width driveway could be installed. However, this would require significant trimming of the mature trees along the west side, as well as regrading of the site. Also, with the location of the 50th Avenue and 54th T intersection and the crosswalk directly in front of the subject property, this severely limits the installation and use of a potential driveway. Vehicles are not permitted to back over a crosswalk, and driveway accesses are not recommended in the middle of a T intersection. MDP policy GPD 4.5 on maximizing land use and infrastructure encourages development and intensification within existing built areas to take advantage of existing municipal utilities and roads. For these reasons, a front side driveway is not recommended. Downtown area redevelopment plan. So this subject site falls within the Old Town Main Street district area of the DARP overlay. This largely guides infill and new development. However, this proposal deals with the reuse of an existing building. One of the policies within the DARP is to reinforce the historical significance of the area through the preservation or adaptive reuse of historic buildings. This building is not historic, meaning it's not designated, but it has been sitting vacant for several years. The adaptive reuse of the building would align with the intent of the DARP overlay by making use and reusing a viable building. So the applicant proposes to cosmetically upgrade the exterior of the building so that it looks more like a residential home. They intend to do this by applying a fresh coat of neutral colored paint over the existing stucco, incorporating wooden features into the existing porch columns, removing the existing freestanding sign in the front yard, implementing flower beds in the front yard, and in the future, possibly constructing a ground level veranda along the front of the building. So under the municipal development plan, the subject area is identified as general residential lands on the future land concept map of the MDP, and the proposal meets the intent of various sections. So some of the sections that we pulled out are GPD 4.5. Intensification within existing built areas should be encouraged to take advantage of existing municipal utilities and roads. GPD 4.8, the city shall be receptive to development proposals and concepts that should help deliver the city's vision. RES 5.5, the city shall promote sensitive infill opportunities. And again, from RES 5.5, opportunities to increase density through infill should be encouraged. Analysis, so as shown in the image on the screen, the neighborhood consists of detached dwellings, multifamily dwellings, and commercial land use. This proposed development would revitalize a vacant building with limited options for reuse, use existing city infrastructure, so utilities and roads, add to the diverse range of housing opportunities in the neighborhood, connect the residential neighborhood to the community's amenities with its close proximity to downtown, which encourages walkability, supports the overall goal of the MDP, and aligns with the purpose of the R1 district. Revitalization of the site would provide a sense of community and ownership by the individuals utilizing the building, which protects the area from negative influences. It is important to provide these kinds of accommodations to create complete communities so that people can remain in the neighborhood and have access to services without traveling long distances. Administration is of the opinion that the proposed development is compatible with the area and would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood. Compliance with other city Lacombe bylaws. Section 4.12 of the land use bylaw allows the development authority to modify, suspend, or cancel a development permit if a contravention of the conditions of the development approval has taken place. So again, the condition number 1 of the permit would be that only the development to which it relates is authorized and does not relieve or excuse the applicant from complying with other bylaws. And recommended condition number 2 is that the development authority may suspend the development permit if there is a contravention of the conditions of the development approval, including contraventions to condition number 1. Recommendation: administration supports the development and recommends that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the application subject to the 9 recommended conditions.
Thank you very much. We won't make you repeat that.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask.
Member Gullickson, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. That would should have been on.
Okay. Member Ross.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Could you go back to the hard surfacing part of the back alley? It was close to the start of the presentation. There's a part of the back alley that's hard surface and part that is not. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, and there's also another, I guess, but the back, I guess, obviously you've had concerns with the fence pertaining to garbage, but there's obviously garbage, the big garbage bins along many other back alleys beyond residences already have fences. So why was that dissolved? And no disrespect to security or your intentions, but wouldn't having a coded gate be an added feature for security, I guess, and if it was in a little bit to allow that to come off the alley. Another part of the hard surfaced in the alley is between what's not hard surfaced. I know through Public Works and so forth, the city, when we do streets, we have a significant inventory of recycled gravel, and not to make it a condition upon it, but I think as a city we could be accommodating to recycled asphalt that so it's less dusty for traffic when there is traffic. I think that would be proactive. And I guess the next question, upon the study, we also have an alley going along the Mike and Susie's place. Is that not correct? Is there not an alley between there that's not marked? I don't know how much that is used, or if that could be recycled asphalt as well, just to be proactive for the neighbors and the development, so it's less dust. I think that was an issue that was brought forward. I think the city could be proactive to accommodate that on both parties. That's my input. That I don't think that's a condition of the development, but I just think that should be passed on. That could be something that could be offered to accommodate in goodwill, because like I kind of expressed to some of the individuals, this is kind of the good neighbor process of conditions. So I just think the city is part of this as well, not as just putting conditions between bylaw and the developers and areas of concern. I think we could step up to the plate too. Because I'm assuming that we're not going to hard surface the remaining of the back alley as a cost to the developer.
Correct.
Right. Okay, thank you. That was my concerns. I still think that a security fence would be a benefit to the residents and peace of mind and security and the neighbors, but because there's many other areas where people have a complete back fence but still have their garbage dumpsters, but that's just, I just think it's something for all, for peace of mind. So I would still bring in the back fence for security reasons.
Member Gullickson.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I just have a quick question regarding access to the building. I don't know if you can answer this or not. Regarding guests that come or any visitors to the site, would they only have access through the front door?
I will let the applicant speak to that a little bit more, but I do believe they can be let into both by a staff member.
Okay, because I think the parking in the back is kind of limited as far as the staff and potential for residents. So I would think any visitor parking would be on the street in the front personally, but they're not allowing any additional parking in the back for visitors, I assume.
I mean, just figure most parking will be in the back, either for guests or. Okay, perfect, thank you.
So I expect most individuals realize that this was certainly an item that was well attended in council, and there was 4 items that were brought forward at that time. I'm pleased to say that certainly 3, if not all 4, have been addressed here. Those being the 24-hour supervision expectation, the children's play area, and the neighborhood friendly yard safety lighting was also a concern. And the final one was the adequate parking provision. Just for clarification, in the calculations here, it indicates 3 office spaces. If memory serves me correctly, I thought it was in the brief there was 5.
So this one is looking at specifically how many meters squared. So in the bylaw, you need to have 2.5 spaces per 100 meters squared, and the applicant is proposing about 51 meters squared. So therefore, they would need 3 spaces for the office uses, rounded up.
3 offices equals 3 parking spaces, not 3 offices.
Correct.
Thank you very much. I was looking at that.
You're welcome.
Something doesn't quite up. That makes far better sense. Just missing the units there. It messed me up. Okay. Very good. So my other comment was, is the applicant been made aware of each and every one of these 9 conditions? There's some on there that are, I mean, there's pretty heavy consequences and whatnot. So I would just like to make sure that has been duly explained.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a meeting with the applicant and went over their conditions. Now let them speak to anything additional.
Perfect.
Thank you, Chair Creasy, councilors, and members of the MPC. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tamara Nordoff. I am co-founder of the Broomtree Foundation. I also have the privilege of serving as program director. This is Donna Abma. She's our executive director, also co-founder. And I just wanted to also mention that we have our building committee as well here today, which is Janice Butcher and John Eccles at the back here as well. We brought them along as well, so if there's any questions that social workers can't answer, they definitely can. So the things that, and I know you guys do have some questions, I guess we can go with Mayor Creasy. I know you had a question specifically, right? That you wanted, because we have a few things that we'd like to, I don't know what format you want. Do you want us to kind of go over the things that we wanted to mention, or what's your preferred format?
No, that would be fine. I don't think I have any outstanding questions myself, but you feel free to use the time as you see fit.
Perfect. Okay. So basically, when we looked at all of these conditions, everything, definitely made sense to us. And things that we kind of anticipated that we were going to have to deal with. One thing that we do want to address, and I do appreciate Councillor Ross's comments, because one thing he talked about was the parking lot and the paving of it. Is, I think you were getting at recycled. Is that correct?
I just want to make it clear the back alley was what I was pertaining to, because obviously every time we deal with developments or even applications, even in council, quite often you get the concern of dust. So I just know we have an inventory of recycled asphalt, that I'm not putting that on polls as a condition. I'm just saying as a city, we're a partner in this as well to make this happen for everybody's benefit. There's
Right.
never a complete winner, and we don't want a complete loser, so to speak. So I'm just, obviously you have a responsibility of paving the parking lot. I was just specifically saying what is not hard surfaced in the back alley to reduce the dust for the residents, and because obviously, like I said to some of you, this is kind of the make it amicable, so to speak, process, right? So I'm only specifically saying the back alley.
So yeah, we appreciate those comments. And I should say to begin with, because the question you'd ask was, are we familiar with all of the things in this agenda? And the answer is yes. Not only our committee, but also our board. We actually had a board meeting last night, so everyone's well aware of it. With that said, the parking lot, I don't know, Officer Kirk, if we could go, oh, you have it. You're amazing. So you can imagine, as a not-for-profit organization, putting in $100,000 plus into a hard surface is a hard pill to swallow, to be honest. The fact that it is hard surfaced on the one side and then it's not in the middle, I understand why people would want it hard surfaced, but that's a really big cost. I don't know what that looks like for if that has to be done. One of the options that kind of the board had brought up, and even our building committee, was if we looked at recycled asphalt, which does keep dust down and it's a lot cheaper. Again, not to say that we can't look at grants or anything, but it is not something that we are excited about doing, and that for the parking lot specifically. So I just wanted to say that that was the biggest thing that came up out of all of it. And then as far as the play area, again, most multi-family dwellings do not have a playground in their in their building, but we, like Officer Kirk had mentioned, we're happy to put in a little play area. Of course, we have communal living in the basement part of it is what we're proposing, which would be a play area as well. It's going to be that is absolutely no problem. Not to mention, I coach baseball at Wilson's playground, and it's like 3-minute walk. So it's actually a perfect neighborhood for that. So I just want to address that real quick. The windows, I understand it says applicant does not propose any additional access to the building. Again, it all depends on building codes, which our building committee can speak to. That stuff we can kind of go along and do whatever fits within the bylaws. Of course, we'll honor that. And we also want to, again, in the interest of neighbors, because that is and honestly, that is one of our top, not just concerns, but we want to be good neighbors. That's our ultimate goal. We want to teach the women that we're serving to be good neighbors and to be a part of a welcoming neighborhood, in a neighborhood that they can understand the value of, right? And so with that said, I think that was a fair question. I just wanted to assure everyone that we actually have a communal kitchen, and that's going to be part of that wraparound housing piece, is that people are going to be cooking in the building. So there won't be extra traffic coming for takeout or anything. I know that was one of the concerns. So I just wanted to say that really quick while I have everyone's attention. And I think is there anything else, Donna, that you want to add from that?
You did it.
Okay. So I think that if anyone has any questions, let us know.
Thank you for that. I guess I was specifically, I wanted you to speak to these 9 items here, and item number 8 for the hard surfacing. In many areas of the city, we do require an entry onto a lot to be hard surfaced. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm not necessarily sure what the intent of hard surfacing the entire parking lot is going to do in this particular case. Not just because it's a nonprofit, not because of the cost. I just genuinely don't know that that's going to serve any useful purpose for us here. Please, Senior Officer McLaughlin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So administration's recommendation for condition number 7 about hard surfacing the parking is to just remain consistent with prior developments where there has been an intensity in development, as well as the other apartments along the lane do have hard surface parking lots. So we're trying to make a consistent recommendation. However, MPC can change the condition if they are satisfied with recycled asphalt as well. Nothing, just leaving it in a gravel state. It would require a little bit of upgrading. I think it's a little bit worn down. The other option would be to impose various dates if you do want to see it hard surface, but maybe give an extension in time. So typically the time is 2 years to complete the development. So say they start construction April 1st, they'd have until April 1st, 2025 to complete the hard surfacing, but MPC could certainly attach on to condition number 7, completed by, and you could specify a date. So you do have a number of options in regards to that from a planning rationale on what you want that condition to look like.
Okay, thank you for that. Member Ross, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I still get back to the security gate because I start thinking of emotions during life events can create some challenges. And I guess if the other part of the partnership realizes there's gated security, I think that's just another element of safety for your staff, those attending your facility in any way, and the neighborhood. I just think that's, I don't know, I'm just, I'm thinking of everybody in the whole picture, because it's, you're managing personalities during a life event. And I just sometimes think when you have a gated security and only the ones that are in that have that fob and your staff, I just think that's something proactive. And I know when you're dealing with a nonprofit group, it's just like, oh wow, here's another expense. But just like I say, I think with MTC with the hard surfaced, I see it as to be consistent, to be fair, but I guess we could also in the condition it could extend it another, so they have 2-3 years instead of the immediate part of your renovations. You're trying to get your project underway and serve your clients. So I'd like to make a motion to add 12 months after the 2-year period, part of an extension to work with the organization. It still keeps consistency, but it's trying to be amicable with the intention. If that would try to help.
Thank you. Member Nowichin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I actually have a differing opinion on the hard surfacing of the parking lot. I don't believe it's personally necessary in this situation. I'm coming at this from a non-income producing situation. Also, the fact that you are a nonprofit, to make this as smooth as possible. We've had how many other large traffic creating entities in that building who have also used this gravel parking lot as is. Could it use some upgrading? I haven't been there. I can imagine it probably requires it badly. Does it need hard surfacing? I don't believe so. Dust in parking lots isn't nearly as bad as high-speed travel down an alley, and I think the dust is the main issue here. From what I read, that is the only concern that I had with this application, and it was more to the side of I don't see the need for it, but that's just that's my opinion.
Thank you. So item number 7 does read the applicant shall hard surface the rear parking area. Are you suggesting some different wording for that item, or?
I'm suggesting wording more to the point of upgrading the quality of the gravel and removing hard surfacing from it completely.
Thank you.
If that is what the applicants would also prefer.
Who's up next?
Don,
Member Gullickson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Quick question. Now, the proposed gated fence in the back, is that any advantage to you?
Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. And again, thank you for that comment, Councillor Ross. I don't see it as I understand where you're coming from. I don't see it at this point why it would be a need. My initial, because honestly, this is the first time I've honestly really thought about it, and the reality is one thing I think about is if we're trying to create like a low barrier situation as well, I wonder what that would also look like in the community when we're trying to fit in discreetly in the neighborhood and become a neighborhood. You have to realize, of course, we've dealt with 40 women specifically this year in need of transitional housing, and only 10 of those women specifically with transitional housing had a background of addictions and domestic violence to the point where they needed a shelter for protection. And so again, if it was a situation where they're fleeing, abuse, of course, I would understand why that would be beneficial. But honestly, the women that we've seen and directly in the testimonies that we've gotten, which you guys have all seen some of those in that package, is just not the case with these women. Definitely haven't seen that. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's certainly not a concern of ours at all. But I would honestly think that the way it would look in the neighborhood could maybe even scare people off potentially just by having that. Because I think are you proposing like a full gate at the edge? I'm trying to kind of picture what you're picturing.
Yeah, I feel for you. I'm just thinking worst case scenario, right? Because I'm sorry, there's emotions and when it's time of separation and I'm in that person's life, and you don't know an individual until such a circumstance. But I'm just thinking of everybody involved, your staff as well, and your clients. But so yes, and getting back to Member Nowichin, I do agree. Like really, we're trying to find a compromise. Yes, NPC says consistency, but and I was just going to bring up a good point. Is it with nonprofits at other, for example, churches or other buildings? Is it the same for commercial retail as it is for nonprofits that they all have to be paid? Because if it does still solve the issue of the dust and of the surrounding neighbors, and And, you know, as a compromise to it, I'm absolutely amenable about that too. It's just, like you say, it's, the administration at times gets the feedback of, well, if I have to do it, why don't they, right? So, but there again, if the effort is made for the dust, just like with the recycled asphalt, that is probably 75% less than paving it, I'm guessing, so.
So do we have a diagram of the parking? Before we spend a bunch of time on the, there we go, on the idea of the gate, the value of it, I guess, has got lots of pros and cons. However, I do not believe that there is sufficient room there to allow, you have to have room for a vehicle to get off of the alley in order to operate the opener. And I think it's plain to see that there really is no space for that, or the number of parking stalls will be in trouble. So yeah, that's not something I'm necessarily interested in pursuing. Mostly for that reason. It's not doable. Member Gullickson.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Thank you for your answer, by the way. Appreciate that. And I think the gate, under all the information you've given us so far, this transitional housing should not require that type of security, correct? Okay. So that was my main point I was trying to get across, is that this is, and by your own comments, you are directing those women that need additional help or protection to other locations. Is that not correct?
That is correct, Councillor Gullickson. And I can't stress enough too, again, I mean, we're good at our jobs. And the reality is we know the women that we're serving too. And the difference with the Broomtree Foundation, honestly, from other not-for-profits and social services, is that we actually walk with the women just past the initial meetup or initial intake. So the women that we're serving today, like 3 years ago, we're still seeing today in a reduced capacity because what we're doing is working. And so I want to assure everyone I 100% understand the concerns around that. And I just want to make it so clear that, you know, if those women, we do risk assessments and everything. So if those women were in need, we would absolutely refer to appropriate resources.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate, talking about the parking issues as far as paving, would I like to see the parking lot paved? Yes, I would, but I mean, it is a fairly expensive proposition. I don't know if we have any costs on that. Maybe your building people have priced it. No, they have not. I see shaking heads at the back. But Chair Creasy probably has a better idea than anybody in the room as far as cost of paving. But I hate to burden you with that. If there's another alternative, such as the recycled paving chips, I would think that would be more than acceptable to me if somebody is making that motion.
Thank you. Member Kentz.
Thanks, Chair Creasy. Addressing the hard surfacing, I agree with Member Nowichin as far as hard surfacing. I say do not, but I would like to see a dust control of some sort, whether it's accelerators of some sort, calciums of some sort, which are actually more effective. Several alleys within the city are paved. If you do not service or maintain those paved alleys, they become just, they're horrible. I'd rather go back to gravel. I live in one of those, or I have a back alley that never been maintained for the last 25 years, even though it was pavement, became what they call a Chinese pavement. It's nasty. Don't do it. I highly recommend don't do it. Gravel, dust control is a much, I think, cleaner way of maintaining a back alley. The gate, I think the gate is actually a silly idea. We're not creating a prison room. room losing space, maintaining gates, emergency access to the rear. I just don't think a gated back alley is to the property is a good idea. I think there should be more looked at as far as the safety of the children, possibly getting onto their Highway 12 or 50th may be a bigger concern. You know, I don't know, something maybe that they can't get out. Children are children, they will try anything. Safety is probably a bigger concern for them than it is for issues in the back alley.
Thank you. So in order to expedite the considerations we have here before us, Member Nahash had brought something for item number 7, and I'll take a shot at the wording if it's okay with you. So the applicant shall upgrade the gravel surfaced parking area to the satisfaction of the development officer. Is that more in line with what you were considering? Very good. So, Member Ross.
Just have a suggestion, if I may. If it would be hard surfacing material being recycled, which would kind of emphasize that we're dealing with the different material, right? So it would make it, would that enhance the wording to be, I completely support what you're saying of what we should do. It makes it simpler and so forth, but it's, I know it kind of appeases the wording maybe to what the consistency is if you include hard surfacing recycled material, so it's still.
And I'm not really sure there's anything magic about recycled material. It's just.
You understand what I'm trying to say, just to
to
kind of meet the, because obviously it hasn't been hard surfaced yet with other organizations, just trying to be consistent. You're just trying to deal with the dust, just like, you know, Member Kent said. You know, I just brought up the fence just for conditions of safety in an extreme situation. That's all. It's not a prison. There's many acreages, farmers, residents that have security gates. It wasn't meant to be to change the purpose or the aesthetics of the building. So, but anyways, I think we're discussing is the wording of, and I think everybody's in strong support of it. So,
Development Officer McLaughlin.
I've ordered lots of conditions on the fly. So I've got two wording for you, depending on which option you want to choose. So option 1 would relate to just leaving it at gravel and upgrading. So the applicant shall upgrade the rear parking area to a level gravel standard with a dust control product. So that brings in what Mr. Kent's brought up, with curb stops on each parking stall. So we do want to be clear that we want the parking delineated. So we want to see those curb stops. And then option 2 would relate to the recycled asphalt, which would be the applicant shall complete the rear parking area with recycled asphalt. Either one of those would be completed in 2 years, unless you wanted to add a lengthier timeline.
Okay, with respect to the first one, all those in favor?
No.
isn't the
With,
So option 1 would be gravel, upgrading the gravel, and option 2 would actually be requiring recycled asphalt.
I have a question.
okay,
Is the recycled product even available to them?
that's specifically why I worded the way it did. So we
Yeah.
got the first one, but for that second item, specifically suggesting recycled material.
which is a form
All-
of dust control.
All those in favor? Those opposed? So we're going to be going with the change for the first one, that wording.
Yep, so the
And
applicant
if
shall.
if I could have you reread it for consideration from the.
The
Commission.
applicant shall upgrade the rear parking area to a level gravel standard with a dust control product and curb stops on each parking stall.
Okay. I believe the first one you read, let's leave out
Okay.
the curb stops, because that's covered under number 8.
Okay,
We're dealing with number 7 here. So leave that in there. And you'd also suggested part of that sentence that had dust control, because that is really the item that we're after here. So the upgrading the surface, the way you said, and then complete with a dust control product, just the way you meant. So let's have that one more time.
Okay, so condition number 8 changes as well.
We're only considering number 7 right
Okay,
now.
just want to make that clear. So the applicant shall upgrade the rear parking area to a level gravel standard with a dust control product.
Thank you. Any comments on that specific item? Member Ross?
Sorry, just to be clear, is recycled asphalt considered a dust control product? Because all due respect, there's an individual that has some tandem grain trucks that he could pick up and just start spreading it. So that is that going to run into the definition of it? Because like I said, is recycled asphalt going to be considered as a dust control product? Because that is an option.
The applicant would have to make a proposal and come back to the development authority with what product they want to use. And then it would be to that satisfaction in consultation with the appropriate city departments who can tell us that that will control dust.
It's understood, at least that's the process that they will have to go through.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Anyone else? So specifically for that item, all those in favor? Good. With respect to condition number 8, there are some dates in here. I think it's safe to say that we can remove anything to do with hard surfacing. However, there is still the matter of some security deposits and parking curbs. Did you have a reworded paragraph for that as well? Development Officer McLaughlin, or not just yet?
I think, Mayor Creasy, we just have to remove some wording. So essentially the condition would read the same. We would remove the word hard surfacing from the beginning. And then at the end, it would just be parking curbs are to be included in the estimates, and we would remove the word pavement markings because there won't be any of those. Okay. I'll read. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
I think that would be
Okay.
preferable.
Prior to December 31st, 2023, deposits will be required in the form of cash or letter of credit in the amount equal to 50% of the estimated cost of the resurfacing as estimated by an appropriate trade professional and not less than $2,000. Security will be released once a site inspection demonstrates that the resurfacing has been completed in accordance with the approved plans. Parking curbs are to be included in the cost estimates.
That certainly gets the point across. Member Kentz.
I was just wondering if it's worth taking a deposit, being a non-for-profit. If we were able to waive the deposits, saying we're not putting pavement in there anyway or hard surfacing of any sort, is it necessary? Dust control and aggregates is relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure you can do the whole project for less than $2,000, and I would look at getting rid of the deposit as part of that condition.
Fair enough comment. It does, however, put forth the idea that we in fact do expect there to be parking curb stops and this item done, but certainly open to consideration for that item as well. Officer McLaughlin, go ahead.
My mic is still on. I'll just make a comment from Member Kent's. So normally the deposit would actually read prior to a building permit being issued, and we expect that a building permit will come shortly after the approval has been granted. So they would actually have to be paying that deposit within the next few months. So we've already tweaked the condition to say prior to the end of the year, they need to submit that deposit because we know that the parking is not going to occur until next year. So in a sense, we have already tweaked it, but MPC could absolutely remove the condition if they want to.
And so is it the figure, the $2,000 figure? We just remove that? Or?
Correct. 50% or 2,000. I'd rather just see the deposit disappear altogether on that item.
And not leaving the 50%.
Not leaving.
Okay. Anyone else on that item? Member Gullickson.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I would like to see the deposit stay in this case. And the only reason I say that is because we are fairly consistent here on some of, this is one of the items. And we leave it on there. And I suspect you might even have this done prior to when the deposit is required, right? We gave them an extension. So I would like to see the deposit stay, and because we have a number of areas in town where this hasn't been completed, our requests, and never has been. So I'd like to see the deposit stay there, just to ensure that it is going to happen, even though I'm very confident, knowing your building people, that it will happen.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'll just have you word that in the form of a motion. If we could, please, for the record.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to waive on item number 8, to waive any deposits required for the, I guess, associated with the parking area of the item at question in hand here.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Anyone else? Those in favor? Those opposed? Oh, I get to be the bad guy. I am opposed, but if somebody wanted to remove the overall amount, I would consider that too. Quite honestly, in consideration of the changes that have been made here for the hard surfacing, I think this is a relatively minor ask, in my opinion. However, it has already been decided anyway, but I generally don't think that that's too much to ask. Was there any other of the 9 items here, or any other conditions that anyone would like to see imposed? Member Ross.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Not that I am asking for a condition or anything else upon the on the agenda. Just asking for MPC for process to have the rest of the alley recycled asphalt for the benefit of the neighbors and traffic and dust. Would that be done for the process of myself going forth with the query through CAO Gowdy, or would that message be passed on as on your behalf, or would I take that upon myself?
That message will be passed on, so we have it noted, similar to a previous discussion we had about trees.
Right.
We'll note it and do the research and provide a memo back to MPC with the recommendation or information or resolution, whichever comes of it.
And that will come back to MPC if it's satisfied by, if your request is satisfied by administration through Public Works or whatever, if that request could be possible.
It'll come back with a detail on if it can be done, what's going to happen, and just all of the various details that would surround putting recycled asphalt in the back alley.
Thank you.
While we have discussed some of these 9 conditions listed here, I do not believe that we have a motion on the floor as yet.
Mayor Creasy,
Yes.
there are a number of members of the public in the gallery, and I wonder if there's any of them that would like to speak, as there are a number. So we've been so involved in the motion and the conditions, I just don't want that process to get missed.
I spoke with each and every one of them earlier, and none of them wanted to speak. I'm just joking. So I guess I want to make it perfectly clear that there is certainly no obligation on behalf of the Municipal Planning Commission to hear from members of the public. However, in the past, I have been very lenient in not only allowing but inviting people to do so. Just makes for a more harmonious community without anybody getting too worked up about things. If anyone does have any genuine questions or concerns, we would certainly entertain them now.
And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Broomtree Foundation, and definitely appreciate that process. I think that's absolutely fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. certainly come on up and have a microphone there. I think that you're familiar with how that one works. Mike, just have you introduce yourself and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Council. My name is Mike Boyko, and I am a legal landowner for the property that is north and to the west of the subject property. Just really quickly, just to give you a bit of a background, my work background, I'm a civil engineering technologist, practicing for the last 30 years. And I work for Ledcor. I think that your $2,000 is a little light, I would think. I like the idea of the pulverized asphalt going down. Would like to maybe see or suggest or propose a shorter timeline with the pulverized asphalt, if that's at all possible, instead of waiting 2 years for it. As far as the dust suppression and calcium, I'm fairly certain that I know that the county roads won't allow calcium chloride. I don't know if the city allows calcium chloride within its boundaries. I'm not exactly sure. Other than that, before the parking and asphalt thing, I was just going to come up and say that I'd like to thank the board for appreciate that they listened, appreciate being part of the process. It was a very positive process, even though some things maybe didn't turn out positive. The process itself was very well, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Boyko. I appreciate that. Regardless of what product would be used for dust control, I think that more importantly, an appropriate or approved product, whether that's calcium chloride or some other one, you would know far more about those products than anybody else in this room is my expectation, but we will ensure that the wording is such so that it includes a dust control product. And you'll be pleased to know that I think that administration will be hearing from a couple different avenues about further dust control measures in that alleyway. So, was there anyone else who wanted to speak? Please come on up. And I would just remind you to please use the microphone for the benefit of the people in the gallery or watching at home as well. Just the button on the front there. There you go.
You had to remind me the last time. My name is Chuck Colson. I'm a neighbor 3 doors down. I don't have anything that would add. I just came to listen. But dust increases with speed. If the town would consider paving that portion of the back alley and also the portion that goes up between the alley up there, between Mike and Susie's place and the next street up. I'll explain why. 2 things. On the alley behind the property, if it gets paved, please add speed bumps, because it's the speed of the cars in that back alley that are difficult, especially when many people have fences. Trying to back out is very, very difficult. Very, very cautious. The other thing is that alley between. When you have the town parade and events and that, people walk and use that alley all the time. They carry lawn chairs and that back and forth. I've walked through it many times just to go to different parts of the town. And that would be, it would remove the dust. The parking lot, I'm no construction man, so I have no idea. But when we built our church, we paved the parking lot. And just 2 thoughts to put into the puzzle, whatever you think is fine with me. But the one has to do with the lay of the land. This land slopes. It's high in the north end and low in the south end. And if the parking lot was paved, you could control the water flow going off. It's not going to flow towards the alley. It's going to flow towards the building. And they could put drainage and things on to get rid of the water. And if you pave it, it would help. We did that with ours, and it's worked very well. The other thing is the children. Our paved parking lot became hopscotch, became skipping, became a place for games for children. And when we have picnics, we have water fights and fill water balloons. And all ages are allowed to participate. But the kids end up, that parking lot became very safe. And the last thing was, and I don't know, I'm just speaking, and I don't even know if what I'm saying has any relevance. But maybe we could go to we've got many churches and good folks in our town and social groups and clubs. And maybe we could get it paved. So I don't know if I should be spinning my chair around for that or what, but those are just the water flow. I had to consider that with my house because the water's going to go down towards that building and they can control it by paving it. And I don't know which ones are. Sorry.
I think we can all agree that even city engineers can't make the water flow up the river. So thanks for those comments. So anyone else? Come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Christie, and good to see all of you again. As a previous owner of 4 doors down from the said property, we've experienced all of it there. We lived there for 8 years, made a major construction project on that property. There is some issues with water off the alley, no question about that. We had to put other drainage into our property. But I think the issue is, and not to belabor this, but I'm just going to express my opinion based on experience living there. I did not experience any negative issues in that alley. Again, it is a speed issue, which I didn't think was there. Most of the people use that alley to access their properties. And when we're talking about consistency, it's the Old Town District. There's no consistency there. There just isn't. So if you go down that alley, I don't think there's any residence that has a paved back parking, including Airbnb. I don't remember, I mean, you'd have to look it up, but I don't remember that ever being a requirement for us to pave the back parking. And we had, from the west side, a paved part of the alley. So we graded everything there and put down rainbow rock, and that solved the problem. It was cost effective, efficient, and provided us enough surfacing in that parking lot, which was rarely used. I mean, we parked our boat and everything there, but rarely did our guests use that. So I think it's fair. I don't think it's about a nonprofit or not. I think it's about being fair and reasonable that that area of town is inconsistent. So I think if you're asking somebody new coming in to do something different than you expect everybody else to do, I think that's not fair to them or anyone else. So I don't think there was a problem with dust. I mean, there's other issues in that neighborhood that were more problematic than, the local residents using the alley for, their own personal use or parking. So I do think it's reasonable to expect something that's, already been allowed, in that area. So I'd have to disagree with some of the comments made, but as someone who lived there for 8 years, I think I can speak to that at a very reasonable level. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Very good. So once again, I do not believe that we have a motion before us. Member Ross?
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I'll just make the, as on page 13 with the agenda package is the recommended motion. I'll just make that motion to be as amended, since we obviously discussed some of the dust control and I think there was 2 amendments. So just as amended and as worded by our MPC staff, I'll make that motion.
We'll need the full motion, however, do not need to
You're gonna make me
necessarily.
read it, aren't you?
You don't necessarily have to read the conditions, however.
Okay, resolved that the Municipal Planning Commission, MPC, approved the application by the Broomtree Foundation Limited for a development permit for transitional housing up to 10 accommodation units and 5 offices within the existing building as presented on February 1st, 2023, as shown on the plans presented, copies of which form part of this approval on the land zoned R1 located at 5346 50th Avenue, legally described as Lot 30, Plan RN9, subject to the conditions listed below. You're going to make me read all these conditions too? Okay.
No, but
Pardon me.
you've got as listed below
As amended.
and
as amended.
thank you.
Thank you. Was it specific numbers do you want in the amendment, or just as amended defined, is it not?
I don't think we need the specific ones, do we?
No. Okay.
Thank you for that. Any other concerns or comments before we consider the vote? No? Okay,
Oh, sorry.
no problem. I will call the question then. All those in favor? I see none opposed. That is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Item number 5, do we have a summary of development permits issued?
No, Mayor Creasy, we
Good,
don't have
I'll-
anything for you.
I'll read that one then. Thank you. So for commission members, our next proposed meeting is for the 1st of March. Are there applications currently, or?
We are expecting one, so
Okay.
I'll send out a calendar invite to everybody if March 1st is for sure a go. But you can scrap February 15th. We don't have any applications for that. So
Wonderful,
no more
thank-
this month.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes our business for this evening. Member Gullickson.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor? Great. Thanks, everyone.